This is a blog from a friend. I thought it needed to be on YouTube. Heiress lives in a tent. Friday, October 19, 2012. Hitler is alive and well in the United States of America. We all notice, do not we? Notice how the media uses the public any way they want. Manipulates them at will to incite whatever emotion best suits their cause, and I believe that the United States government is behind it all. And our government does not just save this manipulation for election years. No, they use the media to manage the public, like a cattle prod, all day long, every day, with one purpose in mind. Keep the public busy or otherwise detained, so they have not a clue to what is going on behind the government's closed doors of secrecy and behind our backs. Apparently Americans do not learn from history? We should be thinking, Hitler. Yes, and I'd add advertising to this mob against the American public. At the very least sanctioned by our government, inasmuch as they are not giving two hoots as to whether this advertising might cause problems, pain, or even deaths. All the while the American people pay taxes to the government and their agencies that are supposed to regulate our food, medicine, environment, and the financial institutions we do business with every day. And what does Obama do? He bails out the financial institutions who are committing federal crimes against their customers. The financial executives suspected of acts he as much as allows bonuses. Of course that the United States government doesn't actually do a thing within these agencies, from my experience. In fact, I think these agencies are actually shell companies. Then the United States government gets the media to report on how our taxes will be rising for the wealthy in order to keep these agencies working for the little people. Then the government actually has the gall to have the media report that there are new laws being created to uphold laws already in place. Dear God, please give me a break. From what I have seen and experienced, this is merely a way for the United States government to steal funds from companies or individuals who may have come by their wealth honestly, unlike the government contributing to society, employing. Yet our government wants what these entrepreneurs have worked hard to create. Obama's new executive order about seizing assets from consumers' accounts is just more proof of the United States government's intentions. This is not about going after the bad guys. It's about going after anyone who has funds in a financial institution or a loan. Why else would our government sidestep the simple rules of how to get along well together, which, by the way, we as good parents spend years teaching our children only for them to grow up and find their lessons on being a good person do not work in the world because their leaders are all corrupt. This is nothing less than communism without using the word, a way of fooling the public. It's lassoing the media and advertising to do Hitler's preliminary work. Today's Hitler being the United States government with Obama at the helm, the financial institutions behind him and his posse by his side, the posse being politicians and those with elite government jobs. And please do not fool yourselves with thinking Romney or Ron Paul will be different. They won't be, because the problem is government corruption involving all political parties. If this weren't enough, our drugs aren't regulated by the Surgeon General as we are to believe, or there wouldn't be the outrageous and continuous ads on TV about taking every drug imaginable that have side effects which are worse than any disease. I believe the United States government wants us sick, overdrugged, comatose, or at the very least full of so many antidepressants we cannot feel the wind in our face, much less bother with being angry about a horrible federal crime committed by our bank that throws us into the streets homeless and penniless. Obviously I do not take drugs. I am experiencing every last second of my anger. So when we report this horrific crime to the government authorities, as we should, well, not bad an eye when they return our request, from behind closed doors of secrecy, for an investigation with a F-King form letter reminding us to vote at the next election for guess whom? Obama. There are laws concerning truth in advertising, but just like every other law in this country, they are ignored in the interest of what's best for the United States government. And that would be that her people die, so there's more stuff of value for them. It's called old-fashioned greed. So between the media and advertising there is nothing but lies, manipulation, withholding, sensationalism, spinning and diverting our attention away from truth. Has anyone ever considered what all this sociopathic behavior does to our mental and physical health? What is it doing to our children who have not yet learned how to separate possible fact from fiction as they watch their parents unable to cope with outrageous adult responsibilities that are far worse than they should be because of the lying, dishonest government? unethical medical and legal world and criminal financial elite, all committing crimes going unaddressed by authorities? Well, who can cope under all these obstacles to peace, joy and happiness while we're never heard by our leaders no matter what we have to share? Believe me, I have learned our United States of America's system is set up this way unbeknownst to many who have not yet experienced all the crime committed by the elite professionals and our leaders. I apologize for this remark I am about to make, but I come by it honestly and from experience. You can write your state representatives until you're blue in the face and they will ignore you with obtuse form letters or no letters at all. You have now officially been re-victimized. This is what our United States of America calls honoring the First Amendment to the U.S.A. Constitution. You have the right to say whatever you want, but we chose to ignore you and so we shall. This is our leaders' today interpretation of the First Amendment. This is not what our forefathers had in mind. So why would we wonder about why there's so much child abuse today and the aftermaths of it? There's certainly exceptions to this, but most parents are so stressed by the known and unknown criminal acts destroying their lives by our leaders, unethical attorneys and the financial elite that they have a difficult time enjoying their families as they find refuge in alcohol, street drugs and prescribed medication the greedy pharmaceutical industry pushes, on their own and through the medical world. At the same time, our children are fresh and new, curious and without a fear in the world. Unable to even fathom serious crime, they want to experience it all. Many children look forward to living out their dreams, never questioning their ability to achieve them. And they should not in a healthy world, but we do not live in a healthy world, while parents are traumatized and angry about their lost dreams through no fault of their own, but instead unaddressed crime. Envious that possibly their offspring will overcome and achieve what they could not. Fearful they won't because they understand the corruption that most likely will attack their lives too. The innocent children do not understand. Often the parents do not either. Sometimes the crimes that have attacked the parents' lives are so purposely insidious they do not even understand what hit them. If you have read books written by Sonia Roman, you have an understanding of the soul and how it responds to situations our mind has no clue about, because our soul knows the truth, and so this is what all humans respond to, whether they are aware or not. And if our soul is not happy, trouble ensues. It might take its toll in self-hate or well lash out at those closest to us because we trust they'll love us no matter what. We might embark into abuse of those we love. Even sexual abuse, because sex, we've been taught by media and ads, is where it's at. Yep, we're taught by subliminal programming that if all else fails, sex will solve the problems as we focus between our legs instead of between our ears. Years of experience as a consumer addressing horrendous crime committed against you will give way to wanting to give up or finally realizing nothing will ever get done to right the wrongs. There is no way to handle the issues destroying your life and the lives of others. Our government won't allow justice. Does not want justice. Does not care about justice and will watch you die in the streets rather than give rightful justice. If you've always believed in the United States of America, well, it's time to give it a second look, because ladies and gentlemen, we live in a third world country disguised as a democracy. Now that I've seen and experienced what's really going on behind closed doors of secrecy, until the indescribable happens to you, you won't, but I understand most of all the other ills of society a whole lot better now. It's a rare individual who can withstand the abuse the United States government attacks us with by merely sitting back and watching other powerful entities such as financial institutions and unethical attorneys murder people spiritually and physically, without reacting to the betrayal and torture in a multitude of different ways. In my opinion, herein lies most of the problems of society. While the media and advertising bombard the airways to convince you and your family that you're sick needing medication because it's your fault the financial institution unlawfully foreclosed on your home or stole your funds, these entities even manage to convince you that should you be a victim of violent crime, this is your fault too. And if you react violently back towards your aggressor, then you're really sick. If you grow some sort of emotional compulsion because of unaddressed horrible acts committed against you, then you're really, really sick and earn labels attached to your name. Think about this simply. What does a loving dog do, who deals with life strictly by a soul feeling, if they are attacked over and over again? I shouldn't even have to answer this? What are we told when we're attacked over and over again? Well, lately with all the pop therapy hits, if you thought positively all this horrible crime and trauma would never have happened to you. Here, take this antidepressant and think positively. Yep, we're blamed again? When you think about the pure soul we're born with and compare this with what our government does to us, it's no wonder society is angry, not knowing where to turn with this anger, since anyone with authority sits behind closed doors of secrecy, refusing to address any problem that belongs to them and in their jurisdiction. We know if we react aggressively, then we'll be put in jail. Hence the outrageous expression of unresolved anger we see in schools, theaters, post offices and other public areas is explainable. Not to be confused with accepted. However, our government and other powerful create the anger that some people flip out over, and it's understandable. What's more disturbing, these crimes are preventable by upholding the laws and addressing crimes, which are our leaders' jobs. Has anyone noticed all powers that be today sit behind closed doors of secrecy, even Twitter executives? An example of the outrageousness of this pompous rule, which by the way even an act of God couldn't alter, was when my ex-husband, suddenly after 23 years of marriage, had his little Gestapo of a secretary tell me when I called his office during the day, "Sorry, but Hess in a closed-door meeting, but it'll give him the message that you called." Of course I was stunned by this new rule. Eventually considered it was a way to hide a possible girlfriend. What I did not learn until much later, after my then-husband tried to murder me, was that he indeed had a girlfriend who was a financial advisor working with him in a number of financial institutions, embezzling, extorting and laundering my funds out of my trust account to the tune of $80 million. Yes, and today he is married to her, probably together, nervous as hell that I will manage to break through all obstacles and get justice for their crimes as well as the federal crimes the financial institutions committed against my trust and me. Shame on Richard Lynn Davis II of West Bloomfield, Michigan, my husband of 24 years. And he should know better than to do what he has done, even being aware that the authorities would not do anything, as I am confident he knew while I did not and had to learn. But he knows I am a fighter and I won't give up. I am not the type to self-destruct. No, I will find a way to make this all turn out positively. Until I do, you will at least be informed of the new disease sweeping the country. The world. As deadly as cancer and AIDS, possibly more painful because there's no relief by drugs that can actually help the pain. It's living below poverty and homeless, brought on by financial crimes committed by financial institutions, purposely ignored by the government authorities to which you pay your taxes for their protection, while the media intentionally remains mute. These victims are suffering and dying in the streets right under your nose. The next victim could be you. What color lapel ornament should our allies and charities raising money for this disease be? How about a replica of a burnt corner of a $1,000 bill? By Deborah Breuner. Heiress lives in a 10.